Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge, and today we will be recapping and reviewing Blood of My Blood, episode 6, Birthright. Alright my friends, it is time again to recap and discuss an episode, and man, if I was frustrated about some things last week, this week was quite the roller coaster. I don't know. Honestly, when I finished it last night, I was stunned, speechless. I don't know. There is 10 episodes in this season, so we have 4 to go. So I know we've mentioned in the comments too, like they're pacing this pretty weird, but I felt so much rage when watching this. Now, here's the thing, though. We're supposed to be feeling rage at some of the things happening, so I want to give the credit where it's due in that regard, that they are evoking the emotions they mean to evoke, you know? Like, it's not by accident that you want to throat punch Davina in this, okay? It's not by accident that you want to flick Brian on the nose and say bad puppy for some of the things that he's doing, you know. That is what you're supposed to be feeling, and they are definitely doing that, so that's true. But it was so painful in some parts to sit through, and again, I know they're doing that on purpose. You know, think to how well they evoke emotions in so many things that this crew does, but it was tough. This one was tough to get through. And that's partially too, like, I'm filming this the next morning and I just need to get it out. So we'll see what happens. I'd like to say I will get through this with a lot of dignity, but I'm probably going to shout a few times. I'm probably going to be real heated a few times. And so I just got to start that out with, I think, as always, the crew and the actors were so talented. I'll point out a few scenes particularly as we go. But that doesn't mean I had to like this story, okay? And my friend Kim, I don't know if you're watching these, but hey, Kim, she messaged me just like, what the fuck was that? Of course, she didn't. I have added to that. But, yeah. Anyway, we better just get into it because I got to get through it. So, first off, though, I wrote at the very top of this, here's my sticky note. Before it started, I said, I'm scared. And that was a good feeling to have. That was a good feeling to have, all right? So it starts off with a voiceover from Julia, and she has seen that her waters have broken, okay? So, you know, she tells the baby, she's like, it's all right, little one, we're going to get through this. And she goes outside in her pajamas, basically, to see Brian, who happens to be out in, I mean, they don't really have a courtyard at that place, but out on the front yawn or the yard or the side of the servants' quarters or whatever. And we are very quickly, it's proven that no, y'all, Brian did think that the baby was his dad's, okay? There was some people, and again, I sound super salty. I'm not picking on anyone in the comments. I loved your theories, by the way. So, I'm pretty worked up. None of what I'm saying towards anyone who commented is that I think you were dumb or wrong or any of that stuff. Like, those are all theories. I love your theories. I don't want anyone to shy away from leaving them. I'm just going to say, there was some people who said, oh, well, maybe Brian was playing along. He knew he couldn't bring her with, so he was just playing along. I didn't get that feeling last week. That's not what I was thinking. But when someone said that, I was like, oh, maybe. No, he really thought that, y'all. He really thought that even though that, like, couple, however long before, when she had said, I have a husband, I need to get back to my husband, that then when Davina just says, it's the Laird's baby, the seer's coming, and Brian immediately is like, oh, you lied to me, it's my father's baby, and he just believes it. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be like he doesn't think his ma would lie to him or something, but like, why? I don't know. I just was so freaking frustrated with Brian in this episode. Like, I'm going to need some redemption of Brian Fraser to come quick and fast. And we'll see. We'll see. By the end of this episode, there is some hope. So I'll give him his due when we get there. But for a good part of this, Brian Fraser, you suck. Okay? He was just awful. Not just awful, but like he was so useless. And I just felt so bad for Julia. Again, you're supposed to feel these things. But he truly did think that. And now, though, I will say this. Her and him are just kind of yelling about this outside where anyone could hear. They weren't quietly whispering about the fact that the baby isn't the Laird's. Like, we were full on talking about this outside where people could hear. So I was actually surprised we didn't have like Davina like overhear her say that, because that would have given a lot more leverage to the scenes that were going to come, because we're just saying it loud and proud out here outside, and there was someone even working not that far away. So that was a weird choice. I literally wrote, I was like, we're just yelling in front of everyone about it. Okay. And at the end of the scene, it seems Brian does believe her. I don't know why she should have had to convince him. That was hogwash to me. But he does seem to believe her. And he says, well, you're going to have to get ready for your confinement. And we're like, oh boy. So then we have the intro. And when we come back from the intro, we have Henry. So yeah, poor Henry is trying to leave the estate, and Bug comes after him and is like, where do you think you're going? He's like, I'm on my way into town. And he's like, the master doesn't like you leaving all of the time. And I just want to say, you know what? You can tell the master to shove it up his ass, all right? That's what I really wanted Henry to say to him. Bug acting like he's so tough. Like, just, I'm sorry, Henry, just slit that guy's throat already. Like, just do it. Just kill him, man. If that's the only, like, just kill that dude. I mean, I know it can't happen, but I hate him so much. I hate him so much. There's nothing good about that man, and it kind of, again, pisses me off that we're having him be so evil so soon, you know? And I think it's supposed to be like, it's Henry who's seeing this side of him. Not everyone else would have known, but like, he's evil. He's evil. Though he does try to show us one soft part where Henry explains, he's like, I'm looking for my wife and child. Like, my wife is pregnant. And that gets Bug to say that Merdina had lost a baby, and she wasn't the same after that. He mentions his lovely wife. I had wondered when we would mention her. I wonder if we'll ever see her. I don't know. I feel like it would humanize him too much, so we can't have that happen. But I am surprised she's not, like, working for the Laird, too. Like, I don't know. That seemed weird that she wasn't. And, I mean, again, maybe she is. But he cracks just a little bit. And he says he's going to help. Now, what's interesting about this, though, is it's this weird mix, because I feel like that is a genuine moment, because Bug couldn't have known what Henry was going to say. Like, he didn't know that he was going to mention, like, that she was pregnant. And so I think it does catch him off guard. It's just, you know, he immediately will go back on that and do what his master is trying to get him to do and get Henry to stop looking for Julia. But I do think he has that genuine crack of a moment there. So now we go back to Castle Leathers, and this is a tough scene for us. And this begins a series of, I think total there was like 4 flashbacks with Davina. So this episode is very interesting because it really spent a lot of time on Davina. And yeah, I don't know what to say. It was some very interesting stuff we did with her. And hopefully she will be on our side going forward. I'm hoping, we'll get to it. I'm hoping this cracked her a little bit, as like, I hope that it did. But we have, Julia is in the Laird's bedroom to like empty his chamber pot and to wake him up. And she has a flashback remembering when he threatened her into letting him fuck her in the morning. He woke up, he has a horrible wig on, and tells her to get on him, and he just straight up pops his dick up and literally rapes her, which, I mean, she might say that she wasn't, but he forced her to do that. She's in servitude. He says, I can get you kicked out if you don't. Like, that is coercion. And she gets raped by him. And then it flashes back to the present time where he's saying Julia's name, which, how many times did the guy even have sex with Julia? I feel like it wasn't that many. But whatever, he's calling out for her, and instead he sees that it is Davina, and he's like, oh, it's you. And she's just kind of like, yeah, I'm here to talk to you about Julia. And he's like, well, what? I don't want to hear any more about it. And she's like, well, her water's broke. And he's like, no, it didn't. It's too early. And she's like, not going to bring up again what made him so mad last week. But she says, well, her water's broke. And he's like, well, you'll have to, I need to marry her right now. The babe is going to be legitimate, which again, just slap after slap to Davina. So again, I do want to say this, like, I feel for her as much as I'm able to at points, right? Because what we see in these flashbacks is we see her seeing Julia as her, but she thinks Julia is getting more respect than she got, which is just, I mean, she's got to know that it isn't. He may say he wants to marry Julia, but like, it isn't. It isn't a respect. It's control. It's just so gross. It's so gross. But Davina says, like, we've already called for the women. It's too late. Like, she's going to have this baby. And then we go to seeing, he says, take care of her, do what you need. The Great Hall can be turned into like the birthing room or whatever. And so we see up on like the balcony area, Davina talking with Brian, and they're watching her down there. And oh my gosh, this is where I got really mad about it. Because Brian asked her, like, his mother, like, if she loved his father, and, you know, if she was willing, like, if she had been willing, basically. And she says with a straight face, she says that the Lord does not allow a child to be conceived against a woman's will. Man, we're bringing the superstition fucked up stuff back here. And I just wrote in my books, I said, are you fucking kidding me? That you're saying every babe conceived is because the woman was okay with it. When you know that's not the truth about you. You are lost in the sauce, my gal. You have bought into all the superstition around you. Which again, she's raised in it. I know. I don't need anyone pointing that out. The point is for us as the viewers to see how lost in it she is as well. And he's asking, like, did you love him? And Brian, because Brian, he is really contemplating, and right now he's still kind of caught in that place of like, can I be worthy of my name is what he's saying. And Davina is like, you absolutely are. And she's like, if you start looking at a lass, I hope that she's deserving of you. Which, is a nice thing to say. It's very clear that Brian loves his ma so much, but he's confused as to why he's not enough for his father. And we're gonna see why in this one. Because that is a question. I'm like, he is handsome, strapping, strong, and could be used to your advantage, Laird Simon, if you would use him, but you seem not to want to. And we're going to find out why that is. So then we go to Henry, and the way that Bug is helping Henry is by having all of the midwives in the area come and be questioned by him, okay? And he's looking for a Sassenach woman and trying to find out if she's had a baby, because he knows it's got to be close to when the babe would be born. So maybe she's either born or maybe she's not, but has someone heard of the Sassenach who has had a baby? And so far, no one has heard of her. All right, then we go back to Castle Leathers, and all of the women start arriving. And I can't remember the titles of what all these women are, but there's a group of women. They bring cake, they bring food. They're there to help comfort her and help her birth the baby. And these women have apparently heard what the seer has said, and that this child is supposed to be the next king. And Julia is just kind of breathing through her labor, just kind of like nodding along with it, like, yes, it's going to be a very special child. And Davina's watching them like fawn over her, and you can see something kind of snap in her, because I know we don't see all these flashbacks at once, but I'm just going to talk about them. Like, we've seen the flashback of her while she's pregnant. We still see Simon coming to fuck her whenever he wants and doing whatever he wants with her. And when she was pregnant and the women came, there was a lot of shame for her, because, again, it goes to that thing of like, would you be pregnant if you didn't will it to happen? And you were like forced into this, but the shame is hers to carry. Like it is sad. Like, that's the thing, is like, you can feel bad for Davina, and she can also be doing something horrific to Julia. And she does, because what she does is first try to say that Julia was already pregnant when she got here, and Julia will not snap about that. She will not break. She says Simon Lovett is the father of this child. Like, she will not break. I was really worried she was going to, but she won't. But Davina instead says some horrible things, like that she had went to the Laird willingly, whereas Davina wasn't willing. And that's supposed to be like the difference, I guess. And saying that she is a whore and that she did this on purpose. And that causes the women to start to say, well, you need to repent, or this child, you know, maybe he won't be blessed to be the king if you can't be forgiven before he's born. And they just start absolutely just calling her horrible things. And instead of her getting to like lay on the bed, they then put her on the ground on her knees to labor, and just calling her these horrible things while she's going through labor. Like, we'll see more of that. It is awful. Now we go to Brian and Simon, and they're having a wee dram, and Simon is saying all the plans that he has for his coming son. And Brian asks him, what could I do to be worthy of you? And Simon wants to be like, oh, you're jealous of the babe, just like your mother. And Brian's like, no, I'm not jealous. I just want to know how I could be worthy of you. And it's a very humble thing for him to ask. But again, I'm saying, you know, Brian's looking for validation from the wrong man. But Simon does share his cards. He is upset that Brian took a pilgrimage. He's upset that he's not as conniving and cunning as he is. He sees Brian as just too weak-willed. He's doing the work of like a pauper, and he doesn't have schemes and plans. And so he's like, you can't be my son that's going to be on the throne. It's going to be this baby. And thankfully that starts to put some more thoughts in Brian's head of like, I'm never going to get my father's approval, so what am I doing here, right? And you know, that is something that Julia has questioned him on now, like, why'd you come back home? And it's something that, you know, Ellen has asked of like, you know, if he's going to be able to have her, he's going to need to discover like what he's going to do and who he's going to be, so that he could support a wife and a family. And it becomes clear to him that that's not going to be with his father. He's never going to be more than a servant and a bastard son to his father. So Lovett is not impressed with him. So then we go back to Julia, and the women are absolutely nuts. I literally wrote that. They're name calling. They're trying to shame her. Again, there's more of like, just tell us who the baby's father is, just again and again and again. And she will not give into it. And they try to like say like swear on your baby or do this or that, and she just is like, no. So she's trying to labor through, and they're telling her, you know, better that the baby die than be born to a mother like you. Just like all these awful things they're spewing at her. And Julia's just kind of like looking at Davina and is like, why are you doing this? Like, weren't you scared once? Like, didn't you feel this way? And Davina is just like trying to draw lines between them as like, no, like you asked for this type of thing. And there's just a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of, I think, just like not understanding that Julia's just doing what she had to do, right? Like, I wanted to scream, like, she didn't ask to be here. She was kidnapped and sold, okay? And you're saying she should have just got rid of her baby and kept being a servant and just had to deal with it. When she has someone who loves her, who wants her baby, who would give anything to have her back. You know, that isn't something Davina has. And it is really hard to see for her. Like, I feel bad, but it's also like, that's not Julia's fault either, you know? So we finally, one of the lines, this was good, where Julia said, is like begging her to see her and how like similar they are and see what you're putting her through. And again, there are flashbacks to Davina herself going through the same thing and her just being like, well, this is just the way it goes, you know? It's just the way it has to be. And then we go back to Henry, and now it gets absolutely devastating. And I immediately knew, and this was when, okay, I have a clip to actually insert that I filmed my initial reaction to this scene I'm about to describe. So Henry finally sees a woman who says that Julia died in childbirth and both of them were buried in an unmarked grave. And he tries to question them to find out where it is. And the woman is very vague about where it happened or how it happened. But she does know enough to say that she was taken and sold off to someone. So that's very interesting to me, because what I want to know more of is that, does Bug and Grant actually know where Julia is? Like, were they able to find this out and they're just not telling? Because it was just very interesting. Like, I think, because I don't know that this woman knows who Julia is. I think Bug straight up told her everything she was supposed to say. And so she said it, and then he paid her off, and the woman's feeling guilty about it. But what I'm not sure about is if she knows that Julia's alive or she just knew that she told a lie. I don't know which one it is. We'll have to see. And I also don't know, what does Bug and Grant know, because they did say that she was picked up. She was found wandering around and she was picked up, but they didn't say, you know, they obviously didn't say where she was actually at. So that's what I wonder, is if the Grants actually know exactly where Julia is, but want to keep Henry to use him. I don't know. But that is what I want more information on as it comes. But Henry, of course, is absolutely devastated. But I'm going to insert that clip here of what my thoughts were right after this clip. Hey guys, I'm filming, you don't want to see the garbage can. I'm filming a in the moment reaction quickly because I have to, okay? I have to, all right? All right? Okay. Point of the episode I'm at now is a woman has just told Henry that Julia dies in childbirth, and both her and the baby are buried in a pauper's grave in an unmarked place, okay? And then Bug ushers the woman out of the room, says, man, it's over. Back to work now. Okay, now Henry's about to have a moment. His PTSD is flaring up. He's shaking. He's just been told that the love of his life is dead, and everything he's been doing is a waste. I would just really like to know, because obviously this is a ploy. It's so clear by the way Bug reacts that his master told him, find a way to get him to let this go, because he never meant to honor the plan that you could work for me and I'll help you find her. That is never what they planned to begin with. But I would just like to know what this absolute fuck of a laird things Henry's gonna do when you've broken his heart this way. You think he's gonna keep working for you? Do you really think he's gonna keep working for you? Because if so, there is a bridge over a kirk that I would like to sell you, okay? Because there's no effing way that that's gonna happen, okay? Like, oh my gosh, I just need Henry to fucking snap and, like, get out of town. Or, like, turn sides and, like, go find Ned or some shit. Because this episode, you guys, I knew it was going to be hard, okay? And I know, my gastids are all flabbered right now. But I just had to film a clip mid whatever, and I'll put this in the video somewhere. Because the level, Matthew Roberts, they know what they're doing, okay? They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing with this, okay? Okay? But this is more agonizing than the first 5 episodes of season 3, okay? Like, it's just the worst. It's so awful. My guts hurt, okay? All right, that's all. I'm not going to make this a forever clip. We'll talk about it more when I review it, but oh my God. Okay, bye. So yeah, as you can see, my main thought is that I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish, because the thing keeping him there is this search for Julia and the kid. And so, I mean, I know that it's been said that they'll kill Henry when he stops being of use, but why not use that as leverage instead? That's what I don't know. And I think maybe part of the reason they could know is that I know the Grants and the Frasers had an alliance before, right? Because, like, he got the letter saying that Ellen wasn't pure, which, again, it was a lie and everything, but they do still have writing communication going. The Mackenzies are trying to put a wedge in between the Frasers and the Grants, but there still was written communication going between Lord Lovett and the Grants. So I don't know like, how that is or what they know, but I'm just interested who knows that Julia is there. If that was just all made up, all of it, or if they know where she is but haven't told. So that's what I'd like to know. And that woman was looking really guilty, feeling really guilty about it. So I wonder if she will come across Henry as we watch him spiral further and further. I wonder if she'll come across Henry at some point and then find out where she is. And maybe by then Julia will have already escaped Castle Leathers and then we'll still be in trouble. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't understand what we're doing with this. Like, it's so frustrating. Okay, so then we go back to Julia, and now Julia's possessed because she won't repent or anything. And I gotta tell you, the one thing that I was thinking, okay, this is what I was thinking, and tell me if you agree. While these women are cursing her and groaning and telling her to repent and even threatening when they're like, do what you gotta do for the birth, like telling the lady that, all I was thinking was, where's Claire? I know, obviously, there's all the reasons why they don't work, but this is the exact situation that Claire would have just busted into and said, you guys are crazy. She needs help delivering the baby. She's not possessed. What are you saying? Like, that was such a scene that Claire would have just busted into and told those ladies to go shove it somewhere. And I was just desperately wishing for that. And obviously, again, I get it. That couldn't be a thing that happened. But my heart was just crying for that, seeing Julia fight so hard and there's no one to have her back, you know? Whereas in, you know, a season with Claire, she would have been the one to step up and go against tradition and do whatever she had to do for her patient and the baby. And if that meant they want to call her a witch or anything they wanted to do, she would take that, you know? And while Julia doesn't have that, she did help make that. She did help make the person who will be that someday. I don't know. That's just me getting retrospective about it. But anyway, I was just like... But then, finally, at the end of the scene, Davina sees herself in her and she finally cracks. So, good on her. She gets all the women out, shoos them away, which was very hard to watch, but kicks them all out. So then, though, the Laird has brought a minister there to marry Julia to him before the birth of the baby, because he doesn't want his child to be born a bastard. And all the women have been kicked out, and he's like, she's alone with, like, about Davina, he's like, she's alone with my child. And Brian's like, Ma would never hurt Julia and the baby. And I want to say, Brian, are you so sure about that? Because things just got awfully close to that. But they burst in there, and she is, like, having the baby right now. So she's like, you can't marry her. You can't do this. And she literally tells him off and calls him these names. And so he hits her. And then Brian drags him out. And he tells Brian, you're going to pay for this. And I will say this is the first time that Brian has done something hero-like to me. Okay? Besides moon over Ellen. I know we love that. I'm here for the mooning and swooning over Ellen as well. But this is the first act to me where he stood up against his father, to his father's face. Not sneaking behind his dad's back to do something or whatever. To his dad's face, he stood up for Julia. I mean, and his mom. Like, the Laird hit his mom and he dragged him out. And he knows he's going to get punished. So then we have Claire actually birthing the baby. And she, of course, flashes to when she had Claire. And Henry's there with her. I really thought the music that was going to go on was going to be I Love to Sit Beside the Seaside. But it didn't. I think it hasn't been written yet, is the thing. Or maybe it had, I can't remember when it was. That was the thing, but I was really hoping that was going to be the song that was on. But we see, like, Claire be born and them name her, and it's just such a beautiful scene. But then they go back to Julia having the baby, and of course they like to freak us out. I was really, really, really hoping the baby was going to be a girl. I wrote in my notes, I was like, please let it be a girl. Let it just, like, us not have to worry about who this child actually is and who it gets replaced as or whatever. And wouldn't that just make Lovett absolutely lose interest in her and not care if it was a girl? Because there's nothing that said it has to be a boy. It is not in a book anywhere that Julia and Henry have a boy. They just thought it was going to be a boy. And the seer said it was going to be a boy, but do we believe Maisley? No, we don't have to believe that at all. Like, we don't believe this child's going to be the King of Scotland by any means. So I was really hopeful that we wouldn't know. But we don't name this baby. It's Baby Beecham. She does whisper that to him later. But I was really hoping it was going to be a girl, actually. But can't do that. We got to keep it extra complicated, which now, like, truly, I was like, man, if she was a girl, that would solve so many things, because Lovett wouldn't try to keep this baby. Like, what hope of, because even if Julia were able to get away, if she goes with his child, who he's told will be the King of Scotland, how is she going to be able to run with her baby now? Like, I just don't see them being able to do that. So I was hoping it was going to be a girl. Okay. All right. Then we go back to Henry, and he is cracked, you guys. Like, he is having an episode, truly. He has run out, and he runs to town, basically. It must not be that far from town, because he runs to town, and in his mind, he's seeing it's the end of the war, and he's rushing home to tell his wife that the war is over. And in real life, we see he goes back to that brothel that he's went to a few times before, where there's the woman that he hasn't as of yet slept with her, but he slept in her bed, and she has spoken to him, and she's been a very good, like, I don't know, she's been good to him. Granted, he's paying to be there, but this time he sees Julia, and he calls her Julia, and he ends up fucking her. And there's a very, like, conflicted look on her face, right? Because she knows something's really wrong with him. And the fact that he actually fucks her this time. Because, of course, she's going to let him do that. He's paying to be there with her. She's tried to get him to sleep with her before, but he hasn't. But he's calling her Julia. And again, I'm sure as a sex worker, she's had men call her other names or put on an act. But Henry never did that with her. And so she can see something's wrong. And I do wonder what role this prostitute is playing. Like if we're just going to see her in this context, or if she will be someone who helps Henry later. But of course, I mean, yes, this feels a betrayal. It feels those things. But, you know, Henry and Julia, I mean, I can't say how it will be, but I feel that if they ever are back together, they will forgive one another of those things. Julia has already written, you know, her letters she's burned of having to do what she had to do for their child. And Henry literally was having a mental break. Like, that was just devastating. And he sees Julia and she is holding him, and you can just see it on her face where she's like, this wasn't right, you know, like, it just felt wrong for everybody. And Henry is just lost in himself. And I mean, based on a preview, I hope he's going to come at it stronger than ever, and we'll get to see some fight happen. But this was devastating to see, you know, like this actor, he's probably my favorite actor in this show. Like, I'm just dropping it. I think that of all the actors in this show, I think Henry's my favorite. Julia's really good too. I think Henry's my favorite of like the 4 main characters for sure. Because I mean, I'm liking Ellen a lot. I mean, I do also like the Column character as well. Like, that actor, he's really good too. I think that Henry's my favorite. Like, just the role he's playing it's rough, man. Okay, and then we go back to Castle Leathers for our last scene, which is a long and beautiful one. So, oh wait, I skipped a part. So Brian gets beat first. We do this scene first. And I'm like, where are your fucking balls, Brian? I wrote this down. Because one of the things too that is very important when you're talking about people taking their beatings, right? And it's something that we learn from Jamie. And again, we assume he's learned this from his da. Like, Jamie has spoke of, like, he was whipped by his da until he was old as well. But they were always earned, okay? And this time, when Brian gets beat, not only is it not something he's done, which he has gotten beat for Julia before. This is the second time he's taken a beating for her, strapping for her. But he knows it wasn't earned even by any of them. Like, this was just his father being cruel. There isn't even a pretense of why he should be beating him. And Brian takes it, but it's different this time, because if you go back and you see the last time he took a beating, there was a bit of like, he was like, yeah, I'm taking this for Julia. Like, I wouldn't want her to get beat from it. So he's taking it. But this time in his eye, not only was the man beating him not feeling it either. Like, truly, he was not his normal, like, almost the glee to, like, beat Brian. Like, he didn't seem too into it either. But also, Brian was just kind of like, yeah, my father's not right. Like, is this a man I want to admire? Like, that's what I was getting from it, really, and then we'll see that next. Let's continue. We're almost done with this here. So now, after he takes that beating, which again, I had written, I was like, where are your balls, dude? Like, you finally stood up and you did something to your father, and then you just accepted this beating, you know? Like, he didn't have to do it. So Brian comes to see Julia and the baby, and he definitely looks a little stiff, but he says this time, and he's like, my father beat me, and she's like, I'm sorry to hear that. And he says, well, it wasn't the first time, but I wager it will be the last. So that is definitely a hint that it is sinking into him now. Between those 3 scenes, right? The scene where he asks his father, like, what can I do to get your approval? And the father basically says nothing, and that you're not, like, a good man, like, you're not devious enough. The scene, like, with his mother, who says, like, make sure a woman's worthy of you. And the scene where he has to, like, like his father hit his mom. He has to pull him out and he's beating him for it. So we've seen kind of that realization now come to him. So yeah, so then, you know, Julia is going to talk about being a parent a little bit. And she says, like, he's nothing short of a miracle. And it is. I mean, there wasn't super, you know, it's not like the difference with Claire and Brianna, where Claire needed like surgery to deliver Brianna and she would have died without modern medicine. When Julia had Claire, like, they were just in their home and a midwife came to deliver. Not really different from what's happened. I mean, besides the beginning part where they're all wacky, but Davina delivering her baby, just the two of them, not that much different than before. But he is a miracle, right? Like, she went through time with him. She doesn't understand what's going on for the most part. She's had to make really hard decisions, and now he's here. And she says this to Brian. She says, sometimes I feel weak without Henry, but my children, they light a fire within me, a strength born of the possibility of the lives ahead of them. And she continues to go on, but just, yeah, Julia's a really strong character. I really love this character, but I love seeing Brian, like, talk to the baby. It's so sweet. And he even says, he's like, you might not be my brother, but you have a friend in me. I wonder if that'll be prolific. I don't know, but it was sweet. And then they, like, talk about birthdays, and Brian says that, I don't know, I'm sure my mom would know when it is, maybe, but there's a lot of shame around my birth. And that's when Julia says, and this is so generous of Julia, in all honesty, because again, I know Davina made the right choice at the last moment here for this, but Davina has been not a girl's girl, as we should say, right? I know that's such a 21st century thing to say, but she's not made Julia's life easy here, you know? But Julia sees how much Davina loves her son, and she sees that same thing in her that Julia feels for her children, where they'll do what they have to do. And she knows that's what Davina's had to do for Brian's whole life. So but it still is very generous of her to say that kindly thing back to Brian, because, you know, he says there's a lot of shame around it, and Julia is like, you're everything to your mom, you know, and everything that she's done has been for you to get to this point. And she says, you are her greatest joy. And again, that's very generous of Julia to say about Davina at this point. And it kind of makes you, at the end of it, begrudgingly like, have we turned a corner with her through this? Are we coming awake to what love it is like? I don't know. Yeah, it's heavy. It's all pretty heavy. But then the final scene is that she's like, well, you don't have a birthday. So she goes back over to the table, and we see this cake come back in, which they did a great job laying that cake as the Chekhov's gun in the corner. And she lights a candle and puts it in the cake and says, we have a tradition where I'm from that the birthday boy blows out the candle. And she has Brian do it. And so I wonder if Brian and this little baby are supposed to have the same birthday now, is what we've decided on, I guess. And that ends the episode with the candle blowing out. So, whoo, so much to unpack with this one, you know, just so much to it. This episode was an absolute ride. It was a agony. I'm trying to think of episodes to compare it to in the Outlander universe, and I just don't know. But this was absolute agony. And it was supposed to be. Again, I come back to that. It was supposed to be. And I'm hoping that this episode is our darkest point for Henry and Julia, at least. You know, you gotta have the deepest we can sink. I hope that her having these women scream at her and all of that, you know, the baby's here. She's done what she has to do. I'm afraid what that means is He's gonna try to take her babe and hand him over to someone else. Like, I don't know, but the baby's here and Julia's here and we're both alive. Henry's cracked, but he hasn't ended his life. So we still have hope for everybody, right? And I'm hoping that Brian will shake it all loose now. So anyway, this episode, I would probably stick with a 6 for it. I feel bad saying that, but I just did not enjoy watching this. There were parts that were satisfying and they were good character loops. Like, again, I hope this is a turning point for Davina. I'm hopeful that that will be. Again, we still have 4 episodes left. We have a lot to do. This one was all focused on Julia and Henry and Castle Leathers. We didn't have any Castle Leoch or, you know, which makes sense because in kind of the scheme of things, like, you know, they were at the gathering before and now we're going, she'll need to get back to Castle Leoch and everything. But I'm hoping things are going to get moving with Brian and Ellen. So for me, it's at a 6 because I did not enjoy this. And I don't know how much of what it is will even be canon type of thing, you know, once Diana gets around to writing this story someday. I don't know. But this was painful. Okay, it was painful and it hurt me. It hurt. So a couple of comments I think I wanted to remember to think too. I had some people look some things up for me in previous ones that I wanted to mention. Someone did look up the birth order in a appendices for us in the Outlandish Companion, and I was right about the fact that the book had the birthdays listed wrong. It is Ellen, and then Colum and Dougal, and then the other 3 sisters. So that is the birth order. The book has it, like I suspected. It had them moved around so they could fit the other family tree part of it in order, because it didn't give the dates of birth or anything. It just said these are all the children. So someone did clarify that for me, so thank you. I also... someone did clarify that, you know, where are they going to get Lollybrock from? And that is going to be a gift from Colum to his sister. So I think that will be interesting to see how we get to that point. Because, you know, Brian's not getting anything from his dad. And it's already been said by Colum that she doesn't have a dowry to give to, because that was my thought as I was like, oh, well, will her dowry go to Brian? And said, well, maybe what her dowry will be just be some land. You know, when he does come around to her marrying Brian, that will be the gift, will be the land or whatever. So, yeah. But also, one other thing to comment on too, I wonder if Brian's thought about the fact that he could have gotten Ellen pregnant, because we didn't have, you know, the way he kind of is contemplating like babies, where the babies are coming from and everything. He better get moving on the Ellen train, because he has had sex and is handfast with her, and we're just, you know, chilling, not working towards you guys getting together. You know, you could have gotten Ellen pregnant, Brian. I'm just saying that definitely could have happened, because her spirit was not unwilling, shall we say, according to your mother. You guys were all very willing with all that. So I don't know where else to ramble about, you guys. This one was tough. And again, one final time, I know it was supposed to be hard, right? It's like those episodes of the past, you know, you think of like, I don't want to compare this to Faith because it isn't quite that same thing, but those episodes where we have to tell the story and it's going to hurt. So, you know, it isn't going to be the episode you want to rewatch, right? Like, those episodes exist. They need to push the story forward, but you're not going to want to rewatch it, right? Whereas you might want to rewatch Needfire someday and see the hand fasting and the sexy time in the church, but I don't think you'll want to rewatch this one, you know? So anyway, let me know what your thoughts were. Let me know what you would rate it. Feel free to comment on whatever. As always, just be kind in how you do it. Like I said, my opinions get real feisty. You are welcome. Just be respectful of people. If there's any part you want to comment on, let me know. Let me know if you feel a bit better about Davina, if you understand her a bit more. Let me know what you're thinking about Bri. I'm really hoping that he's going to gain that courage now that he knows there's no hope of his father, of it working out. And we'll get some more hero energy coming from Brian, because he's about as dull as a piece of white bread right now. Might be tasty to eat, but not the most appealing on the table. I guess I don't know where I was going with that, but not much for substance, let's just say. There we go. So, anywho, thank you so much for watching, friends. I will see you next time.